I started my college life in June 2021 after taking a gap year. Back then, I did not have any plan of where I was heading yet. I thought, well, let's go with the flow. And after 4 times changing my majors and finally transferring to another university, I am now entering my 4th year of college. The thing is, credit-wise, I am a super senior now. I also have to take an extra year since I'm doing double majors in business analytics and finance with a minor in mathematics. Well, God help me, that's a lot of work. So what does it feel like to be a super senior? Well, it's not exactly what I imagined when I was a bright-eyed freshman, but here I am, a little older, maybe a little wiser, definitely way more tired. Come on, let's be real. Being a super senior is kind of a mixed bag. It's like taking an extra lap around the track when most people are already at the finish line. But there is also so much more to it. Well, first thing first, familiarity. As a super senior, you've spent enough time on campus to feel like you know every corner of it. I'm not just talking about the usual spots everyone knows. I'm talking about the hidden study nooks no one else has discovered, the food courts that are actually worth your time, and the exact routes to avoid that awkward 10 minutes hallway traffic jam between classes. At this point, it's like leveling up in a game you've played so long that everything has become second nature. You could probably navigate campus with your eyes closed. But to be fair, I've been here for nearly 2 years already. I'm about to spend the next 2. I've lived through summers, Thanksgiving, and even the quiet emptiness of holiday breaks on campus. In a way, I don't just know this campus, I've become part of its fabric. It's a bit like being in your hometown. People recognize you, you recognize them, and there's this comforting sense of belonging as you walk through familiar hallways. That feeling when someone waves at you or nods in passing reminds you that you've built something here over time, some connections, memories, a little legacy of your own. And when it comes to professors, by now I've had most of them at least once, if not twice. I know exactly which one loves to throw in a surprise quiz, which one will spend half the class time going off on tangents about their weekend, and of course, who's obsessed with group projects. But here's where it gets tricky, balancing that calm confidence with underlying panic. By the time you're a super senior, you've pretty much mastered the art of surviving college. Midterms, finals, projects, yeah, they're stressful, but they don't send you into a spiral like they used to. You're not pulling those desperate all-nighters like you did as a freshman. Instead, it's more about strategy now, working smarter, not harder, and knowing what actually matters. But for me, that balance has always been a bit of a struggle. The truth is, I tend to take on too much. Even now, I've maxed out the number of credits one can take in a semester, not because I have to, but because I'm terrified of missing out. I've taken up leadership positions in different organizations, partly because I want to contribute to the community that's become my home, and partly because I feel this constant push to prepare myself for grad school. It's like I'm always running at full speed trying to do everything all at once. I've learned to stay calm under pressure, but, and this is a big but, there's always a little voice in the back of my mind reminding me, hey, graduation is closer than you think. Is this weird, almost uncomfortable tension between feeling like I've got it all under control and simultaneously freaking out because I know this college safety net won't be here forever. It's like you're holding it together on the outside, but underneath, there's this subtle panic building up, this realization that I can just stay in this bubble. Time is ticking, and no matter how much you feel in control, the future looms larger every day. Well, one of the toughest parts of being a super senior is watching your friends graduate. It's this bittersweet mix of emotions. On one hand, you're genuinely happy for them, seeing them get jobs, go off to grad school, land internships, and step in the next chapter of their lives. But then there's that moment of realization. You're still here, back on campus, taking another elective, trying to wrap up those last few credits. Whether stepping into the real world, you're stuck in this in-between space. For me, it's even more complicated. As a transfer student who took a gap year, I've already watched so many of my friends from back home post their graduation photos, celebrating milestones that I'm not a part of. There's this mixture of feelings. Part of me is sad I couldn't be there to celebrate with them. Another part of me feels this twinge of jealousy. Then there's the happiness for their success, of course. But if I'm being honest, there's also this underlying fear about what's waiting for me once I finally leave the comfort of college life. It's strange. You're proud of them, but there's always that little nagging voice in the back of your mind whispering, am I falling behind? Should I be doing more? It's like everyone else is leaving the party, moving on while you're still here, wondering if you should stay a little longer, have one last drink, or finally catch up. Well, by the time you're a super senior, you've done more group projects than you can care to count. At this point, it's no longer the chaos it used to be, it's more like clockwork. You've become the seasoned veteran in the group, the one who knows the ropes and, by default, ends up steering the ship. It's funny hearing someone panic about staying up until 11 p.m. to finish the part of the project. Sorry, but my life starts at 10 p.m. That's when the real productivity kicks in. Well, freshman, you understand one day. As the senior in the group, everyone looks to you for answers whether you have them or not. You've been around long enough that you're automatically labeled the experienced one, which is a nice ego boost most of the time, but it also means you're expected to guide the whole project, whether you signed up for that role or not. But come on, let's be real, half the time I don't even have all the answers. I'm just really good at pretending I do. It's not about knowing everything, it's about knowing how to make it look like you know everything. There's certain satisfaction in being the one who's been through it all before. You've learned which shortcuts work, how to deal with last-minute panic, and most importantly, how to keep everyone calm when the deadline is looming. There's something empowering about knowing you can step up and keep the project on track, even when others are ready to throw in a towel. At the end of the day, yeah, it's nice being the one who knows what's going on, but if I've learned anything from all these projects, it's this. Sometimes knowing how to stay calm and improvise is more valuable than having all the answers. Being a super senior definitely comes with some awkward moments, and I like to call it the age gap moment. You know, that unsettling realization that the incoming freshmen were born in a completely different decade. Yeah, that's when it hits you, you're not just older, you're practically a fossil. And suddenly you start questioning your entire existence. I kid you not, I've zoned out of class so many times because I realized something terrifying. I could actually be considered an uncle to these freshmen. An uncle. Can we just pause and take that in for a second? It's not just the age that gets to you, it's the cultural gap too. I'm at a point where half the memes these freshmen laugh at just don't land on me at all. Because it's not just about not getting the memes, it's about realizing that entire human landscape has shifted and somehow you missed the memo. But being the older one has its perks. Thanks to my gap years, I'm older than most of my classmates. I used to struggle to make friends with people my age, but I clicked really well with upperclassmen when I was a freshman and sophomore. In fact, throughout my life, I've tended to form close relationships with older friends. That leads me to another point, connecting with my professors. There's often a fear surrounding professors. Many students see them as unapproachable. Coming from a more collectivist culture with strict societal hierarchies, I've seen this firsthand, but for some reason I've never felt intimidated by my professors. I even keep in touch with many of them. I'm the type of person who shows up in class early and stays after to chat, whether it's about homework or just ask how the day's going. I make good use of the office hours. Sometimes I just pop up in the office just to have a chat. Other times I ask for their advice about grad school. I've had lunch and dinner with some of my professors, attended social event with others. One professor in Malaysia even took me to try archery, another brought me to her church for Christmas, and yet another took me to a Buddhist temple. The point is, there's something fun about being older. But hey, that's part of the charm of being a super senior. You've been around long enough to see the cycle of new students come in, wide-eyed and full of energy while you're just taking things at your own pace. And maybe that's not such a bad thing. At least I know how to pace myself now, and I've mastered the art of the perfectly timed nap. And then there's the looming shadow of career anxiety. Let's be honest, being a super senior means the countdown to the real world is ticking faster than ever. You see your friends posting about new jobs, grad school acceptances, internships, and it's hard not to compare yourself. It's like everyone's moving forward and you're standing still, trying to make sense of what comes next. Lately, I've been contemplating this paradox I've been living. When I was a kid, all I wanted was to grow up faster. I craved the freedom that adulthood seemed to offer. But now standing on the edge of that teenage threshold, or actually have I already crossed it, I'm suddenly gripped by this anxiety. The freedom I once longed for now feels overwhelming. It's like I've spent all these years learning to crawl, learning to walk, and now I'm expected to suddenly take flight with the wings I've been building, yet I'm not even sure how strong they are. The truth is, I don't fully know where I'm headed. As an international student, my options feel more limited. There's the added pressure of navigating visa regulations, fighting sponsorships, and competing in a job market where I have to work twice as hard, put in triple the effort just to reach the same starting line as my peers. It's daunting, to say the least. But here's the thing. Just because you're taking longer doesn't mean you're behind. I've started to realize that everyone's journey is different. It's so easy to get caught up in the race, to feel like you're falling behind because your timeline doesn't match someone else's. But maybe that extra time is a good thing. Maybe it's giving me the space to make sure I'm truly ready for what comes next. After all, the goal isn't just to get there quickly. It's to get there prepared, confident, and with a sense of purpose. The anxiety is real, but so is the understanding that growth happens at its own pace. And right now, I'm learning that sometimes taking your time is exactly what you need to fly on your own terms. Well, in the end, being a super senior comes with a bittersweet sense of closure that's hard to put into words. You've been around long enough to witness the full spectrum of college life, from excitement of freshman year to the challenges and growth that follow. You've seen friends come and go, felt the energy shift as new faces arrive, and watched as the campus itself evolves around you. And now, after all this time, you're the one preparing to say goodbye. There's a unique melancholy in this transition. It's sad to think about leaving behind a place where you've built so many memories, where every corner of campus holds a story. You've watched classmates graduate, maybe even attended a few ceremonies, always knowing that your own turn would come eventually. And now, that eventually has become reality. It's both exciting and a little scary. But there's also a quiet beauty in this stage of life. Being here a little longer has given you the rare gift of perspective. While many rush through their final year, focus on what comes next, you get to experience this one last chapter with a deeper appreciation. You've learned to savor the small moments, the quiet mornings walking to class, the laughter with friends, the random conversations that spark the most unexpected places. You know how fleeting this time is, and that makes each experience, however mundane, feel more meaningful. This final year becomes a chance to take it all in one more time, to fully live in these moments, knowing that when it's finally time to walk across that stage, you do so with a sense of fulfillment. You made the most out of it, not just in terms of academics or achievements, but in the way you embraced the ups and downs, the friendships, the personal growth. It's a closure that's tinged with sadness but also filled with pride, knowing that your journey, however extended, was yours alone. And when you do say goodbye, it won't just be to the campus or to the people. It will be a farewell to the version of yourself that walked these halls, grew through the experiences, and is now ready to move forward. It's the end of one chapter, but the beginning of another, carrying with you all the lessons, memories, and friendships that made this extended time so meaningful.